Welcome to the Conscious Fire Culture. We give you direct access to healers, practitioners, and shamans as we explore alternative medicine for wildland firefighters. The mission is to break the stigma of mental health in wildland fire and lower the suicide rates. Our intention is to guide you through a transformation that creates a ripple effect in our community. Welcome. I'm so excited you've made it. Alright, check this out. Mountain Mind Tricks and the Wildland Wellness Foundation are coming together for this amazing collaboration. This is going to be the most powerful thing to come to the wildland fire community in a long time, I think. And that is, master plant ceremonies mixed with holistic medicine, with acupuncture, chiropractors, the breakthrough session, all these things coming into one to support you, the wildland firefighter, to help you regain your mental health, your physical health, and get back to peak performance as soon as possible. Because when we work with master plants and essential oils and acupuncture and chiropractic and mental emotional release, when we put all these together, it is a powerful transformational experience that really it's beyond words. Because once you're touched by the divine, once you're in touch with that healing energy of the universe, with that innate power for you to heal yourself, there's no stopping it. It's like a runaway train. It's like you're gonna start healing. You're gonna have a transformation that has this ripple effect that goes beyond just you and your family, but to your crew, to your fire station, to your workstation, to your forest, to your region, to the community. And really what we want to do is give you the most amazing ceremonial experience and back that up with the integration. How do you take those experiences and come back to 3D reality and implement them? Implement those lessons, those realizations that are so deep and profound that your entire life changes. How do you integrate those? One of my great mentors once told me, it's like you get a puzzle and all the pieces are all spread out, but then you get to start putting that puzzle back together into a new way, a new possibility, a new way of being. And that's what the foundation is working on. The first retreat is the end of January of 2022. And if that's interesting to you, I want you to go to the wildlandwellnessfoundation.com. Check that out. And just schedule a call with Melissa and see if it's a good fit. Again, that's wildlandwellnessfoundation.com. The foundation of Mountain Mind Tricks is the breakthrough sessions for wildland firefighters. And it's one of the most rewarding things I've ever done in my entire life, is to guide somebody through an awakening experience, remembering that they have the power to heal and giving them the tools to release the anger, sadness, fear, hurt, and guilt from their past, and to truly release it, to let it go. When I see these transformations in my clients, it's like night and day. There's before the breakthrough session, and then there's after. And there's just so many times that their transformation touches me that I cry. Like it's so powerful and joyful to see that transformation inside them. And there's so many modalities out there. There is acupuncture and traditional therapy and plant medicine, but I love the breakthrough session. I think it's an amazing adjunct to all these other things, or even Western medicine. And the breakthrough session is so important to me because it's what changed my life. It's what allowed me to completely let go of my anxiety and to move forward and to become the healer that I am today, to start my own company, Mountain Mind Tricks. Like that's because of the breakthrough session. Without that, there wouldn't be any of this. And so if you're interested in a breakthrough session to really overcome the blocks in your life, to let it all go, to really step into your light and be who you know you could be, if you want that to happen for you, just go to mountainmindtricks.com, go ahead and click that button, Alternative Mental Health, scroll through there. If it looks like something you want, let's schedule a discovery session. Let's just chat about it. Let's have a talk to make sure it's a good fit. So again, go to mountainmindtricks.com and click the Alternative Mental Health button. Welcome everybody to the podcast. I'm so excited to have Roger here. He is a participant. He's a participant in the retreat with the Wildland Wellness Foundation, and his experiences were so amazing. I just watched his transformation from the outside, and he's here to talk about it. He's gonna tell his story to us. And Roger, dude, thank you just so much. Like, brother, thank you so much for being here and sharing, because there's so many wildland firefighters in the exact place you were. Like the exact place you were, there's hundreds, there's thousands of us that are in that place right now. And so your story is powerful, man. So thank you so much for sharing. And would you mind just introducing yourself and kind of let us know like how long you've been in fire and kind of where you were before the retreat?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks again for having me. Just amazing opportunity, and I'm so happy to be able to speak to the experience that we had down there as a group, but specifically, the journey that I was on. For me, my career with the Forest Service started in 2004 after a season of volunteering in 2003 with the Trails Crew. I was living in Southern California at the time, so about an 18-year fire career thus far, and came into the apprenticeship program early on. So got a taste of the engine life, the hotshot life, and the aviation life, and I ended up kind of being really intrigued by the aviation world. My time has been spent on the Tahoe National Forest, Northern California, for my career, with the exception of a few details, and then a year on the Reading Hotshots. But hit back in 2012. So I've been in primarily in aviation for the bulk of that time, and just kind of loved that arena. Loved the just everything about the complexities of it, the flexibility of it, the freedom of it, and kind of worked my way up through the program there. So currently, the superintendent of the Helitack program there on the Tahoe National Forest. Worked for a lot of amazing people, and I have a lot of still amazing mentors doing the work, and a few that have retired and have since moved on. But yeah, that's a little bit about where I'm at now and kind of how I came to be there.
Oh, that's amazing, man. That's amazing. So I want to go straight into the gut of this thing, okay? I want to know, like, I want you to speak to kind of where you were, like, and there's a moment that you talked about in the retreat where you sat your wife down and you were telling her some stuff that was super deep. Like, can you take us back to that moment? And there was also a moment where, like, in that time, like, her phone had a notification that literally changed your life, right?
Yeah, and so I'll actually take this is a step back real quick and just mention this because it all ties into where I found myself. I remember the very first start of my career reporting to work in late June, I think it was, up here, and within that first couple of weeks, not knowing anything, being brand new, I was on an engine that year, and we get our uniforms on, and we load up, and we drive down to a memorial for a firefighter that had, a Cal Fire firefighter that had passed away in aviation. It was actually Eva Shakey's memorial, and it it didn't register at that point. I didn't know enough to know that that was just going to be a part of this career, a part of this journey. And so you take that, and then you take 18 years of working in this arena, if you will, and it kind of led to where I was, and that moment that you're referring to. So if you could kind of put this on a tape and fast forward, those that first experience with that memorial was, okay, this is somebody that works in wildland fire. You fast forward a couple of years, and then it was, okay, this is somebody that works for the Forest Service. You fast forward a couple of years, it's like, oh, this is somebody that worked on my forest. And you fast forward a couple of years, and it's like, this was my counterpart. And then you fast forward a couple of years, and you're just like, am I next? And that kind of, it just, I mentioned that just because it really permeated my mentality and just kind of affected my state of being the closer and closer it got, without me even knowing it, I guess, is. And when I realized the effect that all of that cumulative death and just destruction that we witness, and all the other stresses that come along with this profession. When I realized that that had been running like an app in the background this whole time, and it had been feeling like it had been closing in, I found myself in a spot where I wasn't wondering if it was going to be me next. I was hoping that it was going to be me next, which is just a really crazy thing if you know me or if you've worked with me, because that's not what I was used to seeing or hearing. So I remember specifically the place that I found myself in. Was There was a brief moment. I was driving home one day, and there's this same intersection that I get to every time, and go right, it takes me back to work. If I go left, it takes me home. Um, and I hit that intersection one day, and I thought, you know, I wish somebody. There's kind of a blind corner if you look to the right of this intersection, and then to the left, it's a highway that you tie into, a little mountain highway, 2-lane road, curvy. And I just thought I should just creep out into this intersection, and if someone comes around that blind corner and takes me out, like, I'm good with that. And then I realized what I was thinking, and it freaked me out. And I rolled the windows down, and I turned the radio up, and just like pushed that thought out of my head, because it just, quite frankly, it scared the shit out of me. And then I just went on. I drove home and went home. Didn't mention it. Didn't think about it again that day. And then what I realized is, about a month and a half later, I had been hitting that intersection every day to go home, and the same thought at the same time, appeared, that, like, maybe it's not the worst thing if this was just the last intersection I was ever at, and but even still, this is all like I didn't want to admit that to myself. I didn't want to be honest with myself. So this app's still running in the background is the way I describe it, but I'm having this thought now, and I'm not pushing it out of my head. I'm actually just letting it kind of sit there. And then I make the left to go home each time. And I just think about, like, what is up? Like, what is going on? Why is this happening? What is the deal? What is wrong? And then immediately, like, what is wrong with me, right? And so, yeah, that happened for about a month before I admitted to myself that this was not just a passing thought. Like, this is real. This is where I'm at. Like, and I remember thinking, like, is this how it starts? I don't feel like I want to take my life, but is this how that starts? Hoping that it just gets taken some other way. And then, so that scared me a lot. And it scared me enough after those 30 days to finally find myself in a position where I was like, I have to say something. I have to do something to be held accountable to somebody else. And then, of course, for me, that person is the person I love the most in my life, is my wife, and so I came home again after another day of having that thought and thinking about it the whole way home, and not even really knowing that I was going to tell her. But I remember walking in the door, sitting down at this little kitchen counter island that we have. And as usual, she gets home, and we get home about the same time. And we just surface level talk about how the days were going, and so ask her how her day was, because I certainly didn't want to talk about mine. And then, she'd ask me how mine was, and I kind of paused and tried to breeze over it for a second, but it just I couldn't let myself not. I had already committed to, like, be accountable to somebody. So I just said, it wasn't okay. And I think that was a point where she knew something was different. Your spouses know you pretty well, so she could just see this change anyway in me over the course of time. But wasn't sure. She had no idea it was to that extent. I guess, we get pretty good at hiding stuff, or dealing with stuff, or pushing it down, or saying that it's not as big of an issue as it is in our field of work. So I just said, I'm not okay. I was like, I don't know how to say this, but I don't feel like I belong here anymore. Like, I don't feel like I want to be here on this earth anymore. And then I just immediately saw her break down. She just starts tearing up, standing there in the kitchen, which then that broke my heart. But And so she's just like, I don't, you know, I'm really scared. I don't know what to say. And I was like, you don't have to say anything. I was like, I don't even know what to say. You know, I just, I don't know what's going on. But, and I certainly like don't want to go, you know, end it myself. I'm just having these thoughts, you know, and this is where I'm at. And it scares the shit out of me. And I just want to tell you because I want you to know. And I need help, you know. And so that was a really, really difficult conversation to have, but I immediately felt at least a little sense of relief, a little bit of weight off my shoulders because I had put it out there. You know, finally somebody else knew how I was feeling for real, like how I was really feeling, not how I wanted them to think I was feeling. And that's yeah. So that was the situation I found myself in, and that was the conversation that I had, and we really honestly we didn't know where to go from there. You know, we've been in marriage counseling and then individual therapy with the same what I feel is a pretty amazing, you know, counselor, trauma specialist. And so we would come in and out of couples therapy, and then I would deal with work stuff, and we would deal with marriage stuff. But you know, the way that I described it is I got really good at labeling maybe what I was feeling, or labeling what these cumulative effects were, or maybe even talking a little bit about like how they made me feel or whatever. But there was no, that was pretty much as far as it had taken me. So there was no way to release that. You know, these emotions were still there. They were bubbling up. They were getting hotter. They were, you know, there was no way to release any of that stuff. I felt like all I could do was label it, but it was still there, and it wasn't going anywhere. It was getting worse, and it was getting heavier. Um, you know, so that's kind of where I was, and we didn't know where to go next. We were sitting in bed, like in the room. So it's a pretty heavy conversation to have, you know, when you're used to just talking about how your day normally goes and eating some dinner and petting a dog and getting cleaned up and, you know, jumping into bed. So we're kind of sitting there in bed, and we both admit that like we don't know what to do next. You know, I don't know what help looks like, but I need it, and she doesn't know how to give it, but she knows that I need it. And you know, our conversation basically just said whatever it takes, we'll figure it out. Whatever it takes, we'll do. We're in. Doesn't matter the time. Doesn't matter the cost, right? Because at that moment, I said I don't know that I can continue. I can't make it another 7 years till I'm eligible. I don't even know if I can make it another 7 days. You know, I might just walk away. I'll just quit. And she's like, of course, yeah, I support whatever you need to do. So we're sitting in bed, both kind of lost and just silent, but holding hands. And she gets a notification on her phone. I don't have Facebook. Haven't been active on social media in a while. I just got my Instagram back after the retreat just to stay connected with folks, but I don't have Facebook. But she got a notification on her phone as we're sitting there, and she's like, do you know about this? And I was like, know about what? And she showed it to me, and it was a notification for the Wildland Wellness Foundation. And I was like, I have no idea what that is. But, and I immediately looked at her and I said, I don't know what it is, but I need to do it. Like, there's a reason that just came through. And so we kind of looked at the website real quick, and I said, I'm going to do this. Like, and she's like, you need to do this. And I said, I'm doing it. You know, just from looking at just the very brief overview that was around at the time, because this was kind of just getting going. And, so that's how it started for me, man. That's where I found myself. A lot of other things along the way stacked up besides just the line of duty deaths, right? But I think the big hitter for me was losing my counterpart, and then the emotional toll it took on me to kind of be there for the crew, just like it had an emotional toll on them, because they were equally there for me, to be there for the family, and just kind of to get through that ordeal. Was kind of the catalyst, I think, to kind of finally force me to stop lying to myself about like what the rest of my career had looked like as well, and how all of that stuff had affected me along the way. But yeah, man. So it was just crazy. We're sitting there, and then here comes this notification, and it just felt right, and we both looked at each other, and the commitment was there. this her from her support and from me just saying, this is different. This is different than traditional Western medicine. This is something that came to your phone in this moment where we're both sitting here lost for a reason, and I'm in. Like at that point, I just kind of this is a new word that I've been using a lot, but I surrendered to it. Like I'm in. We need to do this,
Mm,
and yeah,
yeah. Man, when you told that story the first day in retreat, I just me and Melissa looked at each other and just started crying because we knew like somehow divine that was a divine intervention, brother.
yeah,
Like, and we're gonna get into what happened for you, but that was a divine intervention in that moment. Like that is like just you telling that story, I was crying, man, right now. Again, like it's just so beautiful and so powerful. And it like to me, it really speaks to like the power of the medicine, of the community, of everything that happened during retreat, right?
yeah. And it's weird because I look at it now and I can kind of see a lot more of the interconnectedness of all of this, the connectivity for just surrounding a lot of different things. But I had recognized Melissa's name, and I remember telling Jessica, I was like, Jessica's my wife. I remember telling her like, I've worked with Melissa before, down at the academy, down at the Wildland Fire Training Center. I was on a detail down there, and she would always help out with the academies when she was employed by the agency. And so um, that was kind of that first connection, right? Like I know her. Um, I'm gonna reach out. I'm gonna see what this is about, and it just kept the dots just kept connecting more and more and more from there. Like everything just started falling into place more and more and more, uh, which just in my mind and in my heart was just like, yeah, this is whatever is leading me, because I was not leading it, is like I'm grabbing onto its hand and I'm following because everything just started falling into place
Yeah.
after that, man.
Right, right. So I want to fast forward a little bit to the welcome ceremony because I think, yes, we're going to talk about the medicine and all the great things that happened, but that moment when you guys walked through the door in complete silence and the things that happened in those like first 2 hours of silence, I think that was the most human, most emotional, most beautiful ceremony I've ever been in my entire life. Like it was so powerful. Like and we just set the tone right there, right? Like that was just the beginning, but I would love to hear your thoughts about that welcome ceremony and how powerful it was for you.
Yeah, and boy, that that's a it was intense in a good way. Like when I use that word now, it takes on a totally different connotation for me. But I just remember bouncing along, the road in the back of the pickup truck there to the retreat center, and we were probably a mix of nervousness and anxieties, and you're in there with some folks that you feel a connection with, but you haven't connected with yet to the extent that we ended up connecting. But walking through those doors, you just felt getting out of the truck and getting ready to walk into that setting. I mean, everything about it, the location, the setting, the atmosphere, the emotional charge that was in the air. When those doors open and you kind of see. I mean, it just wasn't even like what we saw. It was just the feeling of the energy, the support, the supportive energy, the love, the positive vibes. Just man, it just instantly felt like everybody there was waiting to absorb that, to take that from us and kind of put some of that weight on their shoulders. I mean, it was just so emotionally pure that all most of us could do. And I don't want to speak for everybody else, but I know for me, I was just in tears the second I walked in, because it's like I'm supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be helped in this way by these people. And that wasn't just that thought only came after the feeling. Like the I think what the most amazing thing about this whole situation, this whole experience, was it's probably the first time in my life that the feelings came first. Noticeably, the feelings were there, and then I would process them as thoughts and be like, "This is, yeah, cool. I really felt that." Like everything else leading up to this was like I would think about it and then decide if that's what I felt or not. But you didn't even have to put stuff into words here. It was just so pure, so emotional in terms of like that genuine support network and just seeing people truly in service to others who just, when you saw our faces, you saw 8 people walk through with like broken spirits. Like it affected you guys to the point where you just were like, give me that, let me help. And it just was so beautiful. I mean, I wasn't the only one in tears as we were just waiting to, to enter this process. And that whole ceremony, just with the humbleness of the practitioners to those in service, the gentleness of the there were no words, but it was all actions. But the gentleness of the actions, the touch, the encouragement, what Danny was doing to help purify our souls while he was purifying his at the same time, by just being a servant to everybody and seating us accordingly, and just washing our feet and just absorbing, like in that process, absorbing our stress, our anxiety, our traumas, and just, pouring those out in his tears. It was just incredible. I mean, right away, you just, whatever was going to happen, it just cemented it that much more that this was supposed to happen. And I was ready for it, type of deal.
Oh my God. Yeah. That ceremony, like just watching Danny wash everybody's feet and like bow to them and kiss your feet and everything. It was just so like, it was so beautiful and so powerful. It just like, I was just standing there crying, just watching it, just experiencing, like you said, the emotions were so big. I mean, the entire retreat, the emotions were so big, right? And so I want to fast forward a little bit to your Kambo experience, because Kambo is really like, it sounds really hardcore. Like, what, this weird person's gonna burn venom into my skin? Like, it's kind of like when you hear about Kambo, you're like, oh shit, like what is that? And it's super crazy intense for like 20 minutes, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. And just one more thought on the ceremony thing there before we talk about the combo, because it kind of was, it drops, in my mind. I'm sure everybody was doing the same thing, but you're trying to set up what you think this might be, or what this could be, or how it's going to go, or what you think you're going to do. And just the thing that just immediately was apparent was that you weren't going to think your way through this, like this journey. When those doors opened and when we got to enter ceremony, whatever my ego was trying to formulate as like the plan, or how these reactions, that goes out the window, man. It was pure love, it was pure support, it was pure light, pure goodness, pure consciousness that you end up walking into. And when you enter an arena like that, you can't do anything but cry. I mean, that's just truth, dude. And that's what that was for me. So that last thought kind of flashed through my head, so I wanted to make sure I touched on that. But as far as the combo experience there, yeah, I mean, do you want me just to talk a little bit about like what I was able to let go, or just center it
Yeah,
more
I
around?
guess I guess kind of like the feeling you're like, because you got to watch a lot of people do it before, or you're like hearing people at least going through the process before it was your turn. So you were kind of last, and we were down by the river, and it was like this beautiful scene. So kind of that anticipation feeling of like, oh my God, what is going through your mind at that point? And also like your experience, like what was it like having the venom go through your body? Like what was coming up, what was releasing, like all those, like that visceral experience that combo is. Because it, like you said, there's no thinking, you're going on a ride, and the only thing you can do is just surrender to the medicine, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. One of the things I will say is, as kind of being at the tail end of that whole experience, yeah, you're hearing it, but we were on our own little stretch of river there. We each were kind of partnered up, and that was really special to me. But it was also private in its own way as well. So that was well designed, I would say, because nothing happened at this retreat by accident. And I remember kind of the prep that went into this day, right? Like every step was integration. And so we had talked a lot about what this process was going to be like, how it was going to go down, what what you might feel, what you could do to work through some of those feelings, how to do some breath work, all of these things. So, there was no fear or anxiety surrounding this part of ceremony. This was, for me, it was just like a good kind of anticipation. Like I'm again surrender to the process. But as far as understanding how it was going to go, that was very very well organized and very well presented, and so that really helps you with the fear and the anxiety of maybe going through the process. Now, the other part of it is just like how you end up experiencing the intensity of this. So yeah, for sure, when Danny came over again, it's always a permission based thing. So he had asked, are you okay and are you ready? And I just looked at him and said, yeah, I'm ready. I surrender, to the process. I'm ready to do this. And and then so it was just so beautiful to have the drums and the music, and then to smell, the sage and smell the tobacco and kind of see the ceremony as it's happening. I mean, most of the time I spent with my eyes closed, but each time, like I wanted to feel that burn. I wanted to feel the burn each of those 7 times when that ceremonial stick touched my arm, and each time it did, I just felt like I was releasing a little bit more, or like leaning in a little bit more to the magic of just this beautiful culture, this beautiful medicine, this beautiful setting, just everything about the actual emotional release associated with what I was doing. And so for me, each one of those was just like, yeah, well, I welcomed it. Like, keep going. I need to feel that. I hadn't felt for so long. I was so numb for so long. And then with the actual venom, you're sitting there and you're trying to kind of maintain this meditative state. And I knew it was going to be intense, but you don't really know how intense until you go through it. I just remember having my eyes closed, sitting with my feet well grounded, trying to breathe, and just this comfortable warmth built up. It wasn't like a lot of heat, but I got really warm. I had my eyes closed, and it just like this really like almost like if you were looking at the sun with your eyes closed. This really red kind of color came in as I could start hearing the blood rush to my head and through my organs. Like your eardrums are kind of like feeling and hearing the push of that blood course through your veins, and everything kind of starts to fade out at that point. It kind of gets real narrow. For me, it did, and just to where I could not hear the words of the music anymore. All I could hear or feel was the beat of the drums and the whooshing of the blood rushing through my veins. And then with that, that's kind of when I started to purge, and it kind of help you along with that process, help you kind of to the ground. I remember I ended up laying on my side, and just continuing to purge and kind of continuing to let that intense like feeling of me actually hearing what was happening inside my body continue. Like I there was no way that I was going to be able to continue to sit up, because once it hit me, all I wanted to do was kind of stay there for a minute and let that continue to happen. But then it became so intense that I was like, okay, if this wears off, I'm good with that. Like I need to, it's beautiful, but it's like, I need to hopefully not feel sick after this or anything, and I did. And it started to wear off a little bit, to where I could, the sounds and the sights, and the color kind of started to come back in. So that lens that got real specific and so focused on what was happening inside my body, and all I could hear was the drum beats, and all I could hear was my blood rushing through my veins. That started to kind of open back up, and I could open my eyes, and I could see color return to the river and the foliage, and then I can hear the words come back into the music, and I could see everybody there still supporting me, all those that were in service to us. And that was just incredible, because when you come out of something like that, it may have only been a minute maybe a minute or two. I don't really know how long it was, like in time reality, but I know that I was on a journey that felt like, you know, a lifetime during those few minutes, and working through some really serious stuff while that was happening. And so coming out of that and having the senses come back to you, the color come back to you, the sounds come back to you, and then just seeing the support group around you, um, it was really powerful. It was really beautiful, um, and it just like kind of solidified the stuff that you had just experienced. Like again, wasn't by accident, and also that it was just you actually I felt for the first time in so long coming back to the world that I had looked inward. I had gone through some shit, and I had was able to release it, like with that purging and with this intensity for the first time in a long time. When I came out of that, not only was I able to see and hear in like ultra HD vision, but I was able to feel again. Like I could feel the air from, the river rushing by. I was able to feel the grains of sand in my hand. I was able to feel the coldness of the rock, the warmth of everybody's hands as they were touching me. And again, this is something that, I'd been so numb prior to this that it's just that release was real. And the intensity of that ceremony was by design. It was to release the intensity of what was numbing me up. And so it was just so incredible. I just remember everything about that was so incredible. And what came to me during that time was stuff that I didn't really expect to come to me as well. It was like I was definitely able to get rid of some of the stuff I specifically went there to work on with losing Dan, but there was other stuff that came up that showed me like, hey, there's more to your the baggage that you brought in here. There's more to your story that we're going to jump into here. So it was incredible.
Oh wow, man. Yeah, Kambo is so beautiful and powerful and such a good preparation for what's to come, right?
Yeah, and it's it kind of, you're thinking like, man, if this is this intense, I wonder, is it gonna get even more intense? And it did not. It intense, I guess, for different people at different times. But for me, this was probably the most intense portion of my retreat. But I think it was, again, knowing that this was all by design. It was because that was what my body was willing to let go of at that point in the river there. I mean, the traumas that I shed and the things that I thought about when I was on that journey that seemed like a lifetime, even though it was only a couple of minutes. Um, I was able to release a lot of stuff that had been inside of me. This energy to the river and to that environment, and to make sense of these things that I had been unable to process, to make sense of things and know it in my heart and know it in my soul that I had finally reconciled these and made sense of them. I was able to do that while I was on that journey, you know, in a matter of minutes. Whereas I just, in a matter of years, and this is just my experience. I'm not blanket statementing what everybody else's experience with it would be, but I was able to do in a matter of 2 minutes in that intense ceremony what I was unable to do in years and thousands of dollars, because none of my therapy is covered by the agency. With my trauma counselor. And so to me, it was just incredible, man, to finally be able to feel, to not be numb, to just know that I had released that tension, that energy, and not just released it, but had made peace with it and come to terms and worked through some shit during that few minutes. It was just so amazing.
Yeah. Oh man. So I want to fast forward a little bit and go to your Yopo experience with which Yopo's like it's like a snuff, but it's got tobacco and ayahuasca and herbs and all sorts of stuff in it. But it's like a really, I mean, it's like I guess the best way to explain it, it's almost like half a tin of snuff, right? It's like a lot. It's like it fills your whole sinuses, right? I mean, it's like it's different than just like a bump. You know what I mean? It's super intense, but also it's got a powerful medicine and it's got the dried aya in it. And I'm curious, like, well, I remember I think we were talking talking off air, and I think one of the most beautiful things I heard during the entire retreat is I think I was on the other side of the circle somewhere, and I just hear Roger across the circle say, "It's just fucking dirt, man. It's just dirt." And actually, like that was it. I know it sounds silly, but it was like a super powerful for you, and it was super powerful for me too. Like it was such a beautiful realization. But I would love to hear more about like your Yopo experience because that was powerful, wasn't it?
That was probably, yeah, one of the most powerful things I've ever experienced in my life. So not you're absolutely right about the intake of the. It's not just like a little snooter on the fire line to keep you up for the all night shift that you got to pull. Again, it's a very ceremonial rocket ship of tobacco that gets sent up your nose by just this awesome uh, ceremonial wooden pipe by the shaman, and all those ingredients they combine uh, to do a very specific thing, and it's kind of put you back into that path on your journey there. And again, kind of seeing the transition there and seeing how we were brought along with uh, you know just the talking, and then the rape, and then the Kambo, and then the Yopo. It's like this was all by design, right, to make sure that we're kind of shedding these traumas uh, in an intense way, but in a partial way as we go along, so that it's not just like boom, you come in, here's the ayahuasca ceremony, and then you're done, right? Like and all that hits you at once. That's just this was very very well practiced, I guess, to make sure that we were in a safe place the entire way, and that we got to the end and could actually be at peace with the medicine, and continue to process and not just be so overwhelmed. But if I was to say that there was uh, like Kambo felt more intense, and the release was different. This was a processing of more intense emotions for me. This was really where I think after this night, after Yopo, that's where I had done my work. That's where what in my head I had come to do was accomplished. It was incredible, but it was also very emotional and very intense for me in a different way than anything I've ever experienced, because I've never experienced anything like that. But um, yeah, I guess I can talk about. I guess just to clarify, I can talk about kind of how the feeling was, but or I'm willing to lay it out there and let people know what I was able to let go to. Like, what do you think?
You know what? Whatever you're comfortable with, brother. And I think the actual experience, because your experience with like the kaleidoscopes and puzzles was really powerful and really, really important. And I would love for you to share that piece, but also how, like, how that experience with the puzzles allowed you to undo so much trauma.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad actually that you bounced that back at me, because that was a very important part. And I guess what I didn't anticipate was how connected we would all become, all the participants at this retreat. And what I loved about it was how this wasn't like an individual journey, right? Every step of the way, we were all in this together. We were raising the group's consciousness. Every participant that was there was willing to be kind of open and laid bare to the other participants. We were in service to each other as well. And so, like, coming into this experience, and I was not able to go through this journey without like reaching out through this experience to other participants. And so that'll make sense in a minute when I talk about those puzzles. But yeah, so as you get this double shot of tobacco up your nose, it's just this kind of intense burning feeling that you feel at first. But again, they had prepped you, and they described exactly how this process was going to go, and you're well attended to with all the practitioners and everybody in service, and so they give you kind of the tips to tap on your head and let this stuff flow. Like, there's no holding back the boogers and the tears. It's like you take the worst nasty, gnarly prescribed fire smoke you've ever had to hold on, and where your boogers are flowing or whatever. And I mean, that's how much your mucous membranes open up. The sensation is totally different. It's not like you're inhaling smoke, but you're flowing, right? So people are handing you paper towels to kind of help with that. And then, but also it feels so good to just flow that there's a party that's just like, let it go, man. This is what I came here to do. I don't need to wipe my nose. I got snot falling out and I got tears flowing. Like, it just feels good to have that happen for once in this way. And so as the medicine kind of hit me and I started to come into it, I just saw, this, and I'll start by saying this. And I came to this retreat to really try to work through a lot of the sadness and the just the grief and the numbness that I had with losing, my counterpart Dan in 2019. But that had led to a lot of different things. Like I had soaked up so much of that grief and sadness and darkness from anybody that I could, because I just didn't want them to feel it, that I had lost my own capacity to carry that anymore. So like, I was just, I couldn't feel love. I was just kind of walking through in a numb state. I just felt lost. Yeah. I felt caged. I felt ill. Cause I had absorbed all of this stuff, so I was really like trying to figure out how to work through this. So as this medicine starts to come on, I find myself in this, like I open my eyes and I look up because I had laid back, as it was just this very, very calming, but very like, ooh, I need to lay down as it starts to take hold. And I lay back on my mat and I had my eyes closed. I kept defaulting through these first couple of ceremonies to like my eyes just did not want to stay open. They were just closed. And I remember opening them because as they were closed, I saw like these kind of really vibrant 3-dimensional like highways, if you will, but each one looked exactly like a kaleidoscope and they were crisscrossing paths and everything. And I was like, whoa, that's crazy. But it's kind of like if you've had too much to drink and you're kind of spinning and you try to open your eyes to like make it stop spinning. But not with the drunk feeling. I just opened my eyes to see, because it was so intense and so vibrant, that I was like, maybe I should just open my eyes so that goes away for a second. So I opened my eyes and it didn't go away. Like those kaleidoscopes were still there. Those pathways were still just zipping by at the speed of light. And I remember looking up and seeing, Danny, the shaman there. And I see all of the folks in service, looking down at me with smiles, and they're doing their thing. They got the drums going, the music's playing, and each one of them, their facial features, I could still see their faces, but overlaid with that was the very vibrant neon like Day of the Dead features, and so here I was down there to work on processing the death of my counterpart and processing grief and processing, letting go of this trauma. And everybody, when I opened my eyes, was Day of the Dead, right? Which is a day to celebrate the dead, which I think was my first lesson here. And so that, and then these pathways, these kaleidoscope pathways that I had, they were all puzzles. And so like what I was told in my journey was that I needed to, one of the practitioners there, she was there with me in this journey, and she kind of led me by the hand to the first one and said, these are puzzles, but you have to work through them on your own. I can't help you. I'll see you on the other side. And through this journey, it was obvious that there was something hidden at the end, but I didn't know what that was. And each one of these puzzles was going to allow me to unlock, the next one, so I could continue forward and try and figure out what that was. But each one had its own lesson. And so as I'm working through these, and I talk about the connectedness to the other participants, I was not the only one in ceremony at that time. There were 3 of us that night who decided that we were ready. And their experiences entered mine. And I could hear their experiences, just like I'm sure that they might have been able to hear mine. And that some of those were the answers to my puzzles of like helping them through their grief and helping them through their portion of their journey would allow me to continue on mine. It's just an example of that. I had heard another participant really, really struggling to get through some tough stuff and kind of crying out, just very vocally crying and kind of screaming for a second out, like just to release, mainly crying, and I had reached out. I was at a puzzle in my own journey, and it was real dark and I couldn't see what it was. And then I heard her, and I just reached out, and this energy transfer in my journey occurred to where I was just kind of listening, but being there for her to the extent that I could on my journey, and kind of transferring my love and my vibes and whatever, my support, um, so that she could kind of make it through what she was going through, which was very intense. And then I don't know how long that lasted either, because again, this seems like a lifetime, right? It might have just been a few minutes, but eventually, when she got to a point where she had moved past that in her journey and she stopped crying, um, it was like a bomb of like light and love went off in mine, and that energy that I could feel transmitting to her like came back into my hand, and then that kind of puzzle vanished, and I was able to move through. So it's like what I was learning along the way is that this is that part of my path is to make sure that I am in service to others and make sure that I am helping and that I am not just the giver of stuff. I also need to be able to take stuff from other people and help them move forward just like I am. And so these little things, what just was so beautiful about it is they were interconnected, not only with participants, but the people in service. Here was one of the practitioners, Rocio, she was there to walk me to my puzzles. One of the other participants was, her experience was the answer to one of my puzzles. And, it's just incredible that these connections existed. But I find myself, as I'm going through this, trying to figure out what it is I'm supposed to find in the end. And I see along the way, what I come to find is that it was the last puzzle, the one that fought back the most. And I'll never forget, like, when I came out of this and I was in that moment where I said, it's just dirt. Later on, one of my friends that was there, who I didn't know was going to be there, but ended up being there, was great. He's like, man, you went through some shit. Whatever was going on, you went through some shit. But when I came out of it, it was just that simple. Like, oh, it's dirt, I can move on. But what was hidden in that last puzzle, it turns out like it was my heart. And this whole journey of like, hey man, you need to kind of understand what this is, like what death actually is. It's just a different way to start life again, and it should be celebrated. You should have love for other people. You should be able to interact with their emotions and their sadness, and you should be able to help people move forward, and you should be in service to other people. And you do need to figure out how to let what doesn't belong to you go back out to the universe, right? That's what kind of Kambo taught me. It was like all these things I was thinking I could take and hold, those don't belong to me. Those belong to the universe. There's certain responsibilities that belong to me, but a lot of these don't. And when we take too much of that on, we lose a little bit of who we are, and we kind of displace our capacity to be our authentic self. And so in that last puzzle, I saw my counterpart. I saw Dan. I was actually able to speak to him along the way here. We had just a really genuine, pure conversation like we used to have in person, at the office. And in the end, I was able to kind of realize that what was hidden and what was fighting back the most, it was like the last puzzle contained my heart. And I saw that, like I kind of had like an out of body experience, and I saw my heart sitting on the ground. I saw it in the dirt, and I saw that it was full of darkness and full of just sorrow and sadness, right? And it had kind of withered and just kind of dried up, and it just looked dead. It was just, but it was black and it was hard. And I just remember realizing that, and I just remember my conversation with Dan in that moment. And I just started crying, and but in this experience and what I was experiencing there, like my tears they were flowing for sure, really flowing. In this experience, they would drop onto my heart, and they would kind of like each drop would change it from darkness to red again, and kind of bring it back to life. Right. And then, I just remember, that it would just kind of come back a little bit more. The more I cried, the more I released. I could see it kind of coming back to life. And at the time, I remember having my eyes closed, but I remember like I'm in the dirt fully. Like I needed to be grounded for this experience. I just remember like I was on my knees, and then it was like, oh, I got to go down to my forearms. And then I was like, I got to go down to my stomach. Like I could not get into the earth enough during this experience. Like I needed the earth. I needed to be grounded. And then I just remember drawing in the dirt, and all these things that I was, if people were watching me drawing, it was what I was experiencing in my journey, right? I was drawing the outline of my heart. I was watching myself kind of water it with my tears. And then I just remember at one point, kind of just seeing it come back to life, and then like picking picking it, like kind of like just staring at it, and it was just so beautiful. I was just crying, and I remember being able to bring it back into my chest, and because I had released a lot of the darkness, I had released the sadness. I had a great conversation with Dan, and I knew that like I was going to be okay, and he, I had done what I needed to do, for him and for me, and so here it is, and I reach out, and I'm able to put this heart back in my chest, and I can feel again. And this was very intense this whole time. Like I'm literally on my hands, knees, and stomach, and then drawing in the dirt, and I'm feeling the dirt throughout my journey. But it's representing something else, right? It's a heart, or it's this 3-dimensional neon thing. And when that lesson is over, like when I find my heart, and when I finally purge the sadness, and when I finally get rid of the darkness, and when I nurture it back to life, and when I actually put it back in my chest, I like come back into my body, and I open my eyes, and I'm on my knees, and I see everybody standing around me, and there's no more Day of the Dead. There's no more neon. Like my lesson was there. Like you had lost your heart, and now you found it, and now you know what it takes to keep it watered and keep it in your chest. And so I'm sitting there, and I look up, and everybody's quiet, and I just kind of like, oh, I'm back. And then I look down, and I see like my finger imprints in the ground, and I see all the crawling around I was doing, and all the, that whatever was happening. And I remember looking down to where my heart was, right in front of me, and to where Dan was, right in front of me, and to where all that darkness was and all that sadness was. And I just saw nothing but dirt. And that's where you had heard me. And I was like, it just hit me. It's like, it's just fucking dirt. Like, it's just dirt. I said that once. And then I looked up, and I saw everybody's kind of like expression and smiles. And I was like, it's just dirt. I can move on now. And that was it. That was like, boom, I was back out of the psychedelic experience. I was back into reality. I had gotten my lesson. I found my heart. I put some shit to bed, and I could finally open my eyes and be like, it's just dirt. I can move on. And that's exactly how it happened for me in that time. And again, it seemed like a lifetime, but it might've just been 20, 30 minutes. I don't know. But
Wow, man, that was such an amazing experience. Thank you so much for sharing from like the depth of your heart. Like, thank you for walking us through that and really sharing your experience for others to hear. And Roger, I want to ask you, like, do you have a bit more time? Because we have quite a bit of ground to cover still, actually. Like, I want to keep going. Like, are you okay to go a little bit longer?
oh yeah, I carved out some time, so we're
Okay.
good. Yeah.
Okay. Right on. Right on. Good. So I think I kind of want to hit the highlights of the rest of, because we had 2 more nights of medicine. And I would love to just hear some of the highlights for you. But I think one that really sticks out for me is I can't remember if it was the first or second night, but I remember like I walked up to you and I was supporting you, and then I asked you like, "Do you want to learn how to stand like a tree?" And you're like, "Oh yes, please, 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 yes." And so I just gently like showed you with my own body how to do it, and then I kind of moved your body a little bit and showed you how to stand like a tree. And I think that was pretty big for you, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was. And so, after coming out of that intense experience with the Yopo Huasca, when we move on, and we move on to the ayahuasca, those were very, very gentle experiences for me. Those were no longer intense. Like I said, I worked through a lot of what was meant to work through down there. And the beauty of the gentleness of the rest of the ceremonies for me was that not only was I getting taught the rest of the lessons that I needed to learn there from the other stuff that had come up, but it was just a continuation of me learning how to feel again, learning how to love, learning how to appreciate just the courage and the commitment that everybody in service had to our journeys and then to their own. And so it was just like this really, really intense feeling of love and peace. And what did occur though was that I had this real like intense connection to ever since that night, like to the earth and then to the trees. And so I remember that the trees around us at the time, they kind of took on, they just became my old friends. Like that was just their names, old friends. I remember saying like, "Hi, old friend," because the tree came to life and it was just my old friend. It was just sitting there, slowly, gently waving above me, like it was gently waving above all of us. And I really took to the tree, and I had already had that really profound experience with grounding myself to the earth. And they were just my old friends, and it had been such a long time. I used to walk in awe when I first started in the Forest Service, in the woods, and as a kid too. Same thing, growing up in the outdoors and hunting and fishing and stuff. I used to always be in trees as a kid. I would climb them. I'd have tree forts. I would just hang out in trees. My mom would always be like, "Get down from the tree. What are you doing?" Uh, and so they had just always been old friends to me, and I lost that along the way. Like sad to say, but like for being a land management agency, like it beat it out of me. They weren't old friends anymore. They were just something in the way, or something that needed to be cut, or something that you needed that was going to hit you and kill you or whatever. So it came back to me, that connection to trees and that connection to them being old friends again, and what it was that I really loved about this job, which is that connection to the land. And at that time, you just happened to walk over. I don't know if you saw me looking at the tree or what, but you just happened to walk over, and I was like, "Yeah, I really want to check that out." And I was sitting down, and I just remember when you didn't say a word, you just kind of pointed, and you were showing me how to, and which I believe is the immortal pose. I believe that's what it's called now. I read one of the books you sent me that talks about that pose, and yeah, I just remember you kind of showing me how to stand, and then you pointed to your chest, and you made a little smile on your chest, like smile with your heart, and then you pointed to your mouth, like smile with your mouth, and then you had me do the stance, and it was incredible. And then I was staring at you, and because you were Thomas, you were standing right in front of me, but you kind of had that same aura about you as the trees did. Like you weren't an animated tree, but you were Thomas, but your features were different. And what I realized after you had me standing that, we kind of just did that facing each other for a little bit. I was like, oh man, like you just like you're a tree, dude. Like you really embodied that connection for me. But I don't know how you saw it in me, but you made sure that I could kind of finish that connection. You showed me kind of how to stand like a tree and how to harness that energy. I was already feeling that connection there, and then you kind of turned into a tree right in front of me with that, like when we were just kind of meditating, facing each other in that moment. And I was just like, wow, this is really intense. Like Thomas became a tree, and I have this connection to the earth and these trees again. It was incredible, dude. Yeah, it was just that the tree concept or connection has come up multiple times for me. I mean, it was there in my past, and to reconnect with it there at the retreat was incredible. And then even coming back from the retreat and coming back into uh, what my normal life. Trees were present directly when I came back in different ways. Like the first thing I dealt with when I came back was actually a tree job for a friend, and it was just, but it took on a totally different connotation now that I had a connection with them.
Yeah. Wow, man. I love that so much. And so I want to go back to the second night of ayahuasca. The agreement was there's some supporters maybe going a little bit deeper, but most of the people had done their work at this point. Like this was more of like a community of raising our consciousness together was kind of the intention of the second ceremony. But what was so beautiful in my mind was that after the people did their work, after the participants did their work, like you, the second you were done with your work, like you were supporting other people. Like, and so it really turned into this like peer support. And that night we were supporting the shaman. We were supporting supporters. Like the supporters were supporting participants. And like it even turned into this whole like play around a queen. And like this community feeling was so, I think, one of the most human experiences I've ever experienced as well. Like this was so powerful just to watch everybody help each other. And I mean everybody from supporter, shaman to participant. Everybody was supporting each other in this community vibration, right?
Yeah, it was really really cool to see kind of how connected we all were, how that group consciousness rose, how we were equals, right? How we were seen as equals, and that was what was told to us on day one. I just didn't think any of us kind of really knew how to take that, because we're like, no, well, we're here to learn from you guys, you know. But what was just so powerful about that, and I go back to the connectivity of it all, it was during those the two ayahuasca ceremonies, like we were there to support each other, and that was not just as participants. It was participant to participant, participant to practitioner, but then also practitioner to participant. You know, and so that became really evident as we were in our second ayahuasca journey there. That like, which was the rest of my lesson. Like there was a point there where the only way I was able to kind of proceed on my path again was through the connectivity of others. You know, like I remember laughing. Um, I had asked you for a blanket, and it took a little while, but you're like, I'm going to get you a blanket. And then finally I got it. I ended up with a blanket on me that had feathers, and it cracked me up so much, because in that moment I just could not, uh, like I was like, here I am, I'm down here. I took this chance. I came down to the middle of a jungle in Puerto Vallarta, and you know, we're in these really awesome ancient ceremonies, and then here I am. I end up with a blanket that is feathers wrapped around me, and you know, I started laughing. But the only reason I was able to laugh is because I had seen other participants who were unable to cry finally cry, who were unable to feel finally feel, who were unable to move forward finally move forward. Like, and that was through us being in service to each other. You know, if we would have been in a situation where, you know, it's like, hey, sit here, everybody's on their journey, like just let them do their thing. That's not for you. That's for them. Don't interfere. We'll take it from here. Like we're the medicine people, you know, that kind of stuff. I wouldn't have been able to get to where I got. And I'm not sure the others would have either. You know, like I looked at that night, and my lesson in that was just to have that humility, to be able to laugh at myself, to be able to be free. And I had mentioned it, like that was the first honest laugh that I had in a long time. And the only reason I was able to have that honest laugh was because someone else was able to have like their honest cry. They were able to be completely vulnerable uh, in front of someone else, which is just true power, right? That's vulnerability is just a sign of a warrior, right? It's not invulnerability. So to see that happen, and to be able to interact and be able to be there to support those in service to us was just incredible. I mean, I had everybody kind of took on their own persona, but they were there. And I remember talking to you at one point and just saying like, man, Thomas, I don't know how you do it, but you are a master at dancing, like with people's subconscious. Like you give them what they, I'll never forget, because it just popped into my head. And I was laying there wrapped in this feathered blanket, and I finally was able to pull my head out of it. And I just touched your leg, and like you give people what they need, not necessarily what they think they want. And there was a moment as we were in service to you guys that everybody kind of, their lessons came to me, and I just remember kind of thinking about it, and I wrote a lot of this down of like what everybody embodied to me. You know, it's like I just remember one of them just being such the calm to the chaos. You know, he was just so stoic, so good at what he did, just calm and tranquil. He just represented wisdom. You know, the equilibrium in the chaos. You know, and just remember seeing one of them as my guardian angel. One of them is just you know, having the warmth of 1,000 feathers. And then one having the voice of an angel. You know, one just being so full of energy that anytime she walked by, you know, the very molecules that were surrounding her would dance and vibrate until she passed. And then yeah, just one just taking on kind of a necessary presence there as like this really powerful shapeshifter. And then, you know, the coyote in our group, you know, the shaman of like no tricks, only lessons. And then it was just incredible because everybody had something that they were bringing to the table, but they were also that all came to light when they said, "Hey, we're equals. We also need your support, and tonight you can be of service to us." And those were like really powerful lessons for me, to be able to see these gifts that others have to give, to be able to recognize their commitment. You know, we talk a lot in our agency and in our duty, respect, integrity, right? Like commitment, and we end up putting our own like spin on those things, and they don't always really embody what true commitment is, what true duty, what true respect, what true integrity is. Seeing the people in service there that have renounced everything else for a life of service, seeing them genuinely bare their souls, seeing them be absolutely 100% vulnerable, seeing them be connected to other people, and then seeing them have the strength to turn around right away and be in service to others. I mean, that was true commitment. That's true duty, respect, and integrity right there. And so it was just an incredible opportunity again, and it was not happenstance. That was by design. It was just an incredible opportunity to really be shown what like real love and support and commitment is. And we couldn't have done it any other way except for us to also be able to participate in that capacity and be in service to you guys and support you guys.
That was so powerful, man. So powerful. And I kind of want to go into one of my experiences a little bit here and just ask you from the outside because, you know, I actually didn't drink any medicine that night because I was still so deep in the medicine. I didn't really need any, I felt like. And so, but I was getting tired by the end of the night. And so I asked the shaman, like, I really want some rape. And he actually ended up giving me some like cacao. So more like a chocolate blend with some tobacco and stuff. And before he gave me anything, he told me, he kind of whispered in my ear, he said, I want you just to sit, like just sit through this. Like no moving, no thinking, just sit with this. And I was like, okay, I can do that. And so I remember getting the shots up my nose, and it was just super intense. It was way more than the rape, it felt like. I mean, it was just really big. Um, and so I was just sitting in the suffering, and I remember like the first thing that came was like this image of Jesus Christ on the cross, and he's just looking at me, and he just smiles with like this gratitude, and he speaks to me. He's like, if I can be in gratitude during the crucifixion, you can too. And the next thing I saw myself on the cross being like, I was being crucified, and I was smiling and I was grateful. And then I watched like my soul go through every like person in the whole world. Like I was a lawyer, I was a murderer, I was the prison guard, I was like the mom, I was the wife, I was the firefighter, the police officer. Like I was literally every person you could ever be in the world. And then like every animal and every mineral. And it's like kind of this soul journey of souls. And then I came back to the fire. And this, I have no idea how long this was, but when I was back to the fire and just staring at the fire, I couldn't do anything but cry. Like I was just crying in gratitude and joy. And maybe it didn't sound like that, but I was just like crying. And I remember, one of the practitioners just came and like held me. And I think at this point, everybody's kind of done with their journey. So it's like everybody's just watching me cry. What felt like, I felt like it was like an hour of me just crying. I have no idea how long it was, but I would love just like for my own integration to hear your perspective on that.
Yeah, I guess what was interesting about that is I spent a lot of us were doing the same thing. We were all kind of in observation mode, I think, because when we were kind of towards that second ceremony, and because it had taken on the form that it did, it was very introspective, I think, for everybody. We were supporting each other, but there was also just a lot of observation, a lot of contemplation, a lot of just, I think we were all starting to begin to finally know ourselves again and find ourselves again, or make sense of what it is we were supposed to be doing, or who it is we were supposed to be. And so, when I what I saw occurring that night, with not just with you, but with a lot of the other participants, is just because I spent most of that night just hardly saying a word. That was a very like really profound night for me, because it was all about observation. It was all about watching people on their journey in the medicine, but I was like hearing their stories through their like their emotions. It wasn't through words. It was just like I was able to understand what they were feeling, or at least my impression of what they were feeling. And so it was kind of no different seeing that with you. It's like there's this introspection, there's this contemplation, there's you were very specific in you just sat most of the time. You sat in a chair for a lot of that night. You were sitting next to me, and I did think that was just kind of by happenstance. But I just remember because I just laid for a long time, laid down and looked, and then I remember seeing you by the fire, and it was like, man, it just made anytime it got to the point where there were tears, it just was entirely different than my experience with tears prior to this retreat, right? Tears, they were sad. Something was wrong. Someone was upset. But when you go through something like this and you're that vulnerable to a group of people who genuinely care, who are there because they give a shit, tears mean something totally different. To see that brought me tears of joy. It brought a lot of other people tears of joy, because it's like he found it. But whatever it is that he was supposed to find, like, he found it, and along the way, whenever tears were flowing for anybody there, it was because they found something, not because they lost something. It's because they broke through something, not because they were being held back by something. Like, it was just incredible. So for me, that transition or that seeing that come to light in all of the participants, and then in all of the folks in service, it meant pure joy. I was just so happy. So, like, tears of joy, that's a real fucking thing, dude. Like, it's totally different now. That's what they represent. That's what tears represent to me now. They don't represent sadness. I cry for like a lot of stuff now, because I'm happy about things, not because I'm sad. And that's what that represented. And I don't know if you remember, but like towards the one of the most powerful things that I think we did was when we closed the ceremony, and each one of us had the opportunity to stand in front of those in service and all the participants. It's like, the equivalent of you end a meeting and everybody shakes hands and says, have a good day. But what we did is we stood in front of each person, and we were only allowed to look them in the eye, and we had to tell them what we thought and what we wanted to say only through our eyes. We could not say a word. And that was just so, so incredible. And there were some people that I would look them in the eye and I would immediately just start bawling. And there were some people I'd look them in the eye and I would smile. And some people I would look them in the eye and we would just lock eyes and nothing would happen. But that's because of what we had to say to each other, or what they felt, they needed to say to me. And it's just so pure to reach a state of consciousness like that. It was so pure. And that's what I was seeing. At least that was my perception of what was happening that night, is everybody was reaching that level of consciousness that made sense to them for what they were supposed to find. And then being able to close out that way and only, like, think about how profound that is. You go through something like this, and then it's like you get to tell somebody anything you want to tell them only with your eyes. I mean, that you're looking into people's souls. You know who someone is, and they know who you are. And that's really what it's all about. That's the human connection, dude. I had lost that. I mean, I didn't know where that was anymore, prior to this.
Yeah, that closing ceremony of really just staring into each other's eyes, one person at a time, it was so powerful. And it really came all the way back to the welcome ceremony for me. It was it was one of the most human experiences I've ever had in my entire life, right? It was just like this human, visceral experience of like, I see you. Like, and we always hear the word namaste, but like in Tibetan, it's like, I see you, right? And I see the light in you. And it was like, that was it. Like, I see the light in you. And it was so profound. I agree with you, man. Like, I would just look into their eyes, whoever it was, and sometimes it was 5 seconds, sometimes it was a minute before I'd start crying. But I think every person was like this visceral, emotional feel. And it's so beautiful, so beautiful. And
so the last couple of years, I had to quit coffee because coffee was like this liquid shot of anxiety for me. Like, my heart would race. I could focus intently, but only for a couple hours, and I would crash super hard. And my sleep was so off. I mean, I would be wandering the universe until, 3 a.m. before I finally got to sleep. And then I had to get back at it at 6 or 7 in the morning. And I was groggy. I was tired. It just wasn't working for me. It's not that I was mad at coffee. I was just really disappointed. And so I ended up quitting coffee. And I've been searching for an alternative for a long time. And that's when I came across mud water. Mud water is this amazing, amazing tea. It's got masala chai in it. It's got cacao, lion's mane, cordyceps, chaga, reishi, cinnamon, turmeric, and Himalayan sea salt. And what's so amazing is that you feel the same energy, that same burst that you get from coffee, but it sustains all day. There's no crash, there's no headache, there's no dehydration. It's just this beautiful experience. And so yeah, I'm gonna say it, fuck your coffee. You gotta switch over to mud water because mud water will change your life. There's immune boosting properties, helps you focus with the lion's mane. There's 1/7 of the caffeine compared to coffee, and so there's no jitters, there's no anxiety. It's just this beautiful experience with beautiful plants. So fuck your coffee. So if you want to try out Mudwater, I want you to go to mountainmindtricks.com/mudwater or go to the shop and click on the button. Again, that's mountainmindtricks.com/mudwater. So one of my favorite things about the Mudwater company is that they donate a percentage of their profits to the MAPS Institute. It's an organization that develops medical, legal, and cultural context for people to benefit from the careful uses of psychedelics. So the MDMA psychedelic assisted therapy phase 3 trials, this is MAPS. And that's so important because there's been some amazing breakthroughs in the research with veterans and PTSD and depression and all sorts of amazing things that they're doing. It's so important to support this company.
So man, I want to really kind of go more to a big picture here and like get your thoughts or like really like your review of like the community that we built, right? Because we have the WhatsApp chat, we have integration calls, like there's actually a lot of follow-up work. So I want to get your thoughts on the follow-up work, the community, the supporters overall. And then if you could wrap it up with just like a message to people that are thinking about the next retreat, because we've got one, we're hoping for June, like it's in the works, and then late November, early December is we're going to start doing these like once a month in the wintertime. That's the goal. And so for people that are like thinking about it, what's your message? And so like what's the community, the support, the integration work, what's that like, man?
Yeah, I think that's huge because not really knowing, I was committed no matter what, but not really knowing what this was going to be or what form it was going to take on. Like having gone through it now, it was like, okay, let's see. I would, Jessica would be like, what happens now? It's like, I don't know. But like, what happens now is like a really well thought out, well designed program for folks. Before going to the retreat, there was one-on-one sessions and access to the practitioners. I had a good conversation to just set me up for success and get my frame of mind right. And with Danny, the shaman, just to say, hey, this is who I am. Let me find out who you are. Let's jump in a little bit and let's get you ready, and kind of get here's some things to work on. Here based on my story, right? So he's even before you actually go down to the retreat, you have access to the practitioners, and they start building, their design for your journey, and it's very much a well-designed journey, individual to the participants, but in a way that it's so connected that it raises the consciousness as a whole. So that access starts early, and I remember having a session with Jackie as well, the hypnotherapy session that really shifted and prepared me to come down there and know exactly what it was I needed to work on. Like it kind of like legitimately helped me set my intention and look at something a little different than what I had thought all these years coming into it. So that access to folks before to get you ready for the experience, and then to come down. And when you walk into the retreat, I didn't know what to expect, but then you're there with everybody the entire time. You're there with all the practitioners, right? So like, it was just incredible to me that if you had something come up at any point along the way that you wanted to jump into more, well, boom, you have mental emotional release therapists there, like yourself, right? We have hypnotherapists there. We have you have the Reiki practitioners there. You have like emotional support therapists there. Like these are the ones that are in service to us throughout the whole thing, the entire time. And it's very just really awesome to know that support, that rug never gets pulled out from under you. It's there before you show up. It's supporting you the entire time you're there. And then when you're done with this retreat, you not only have you built a community with the folks that you went through it with, just like most of the folks in our career, you go through something that's intense, whether it's good or bad, you have that new community with the people that went through it with you, right? Whether it's on the fire line or not. And so not only do you have the community that then becomes a part of your support group through kind of our WhatsApp group chat for that session, but you also have access to the practitioners post session as well, like to make sure that anytime you need that tune up or anytime you have that question, like the integration is a big deal. So coming back and trying to figure out how you're going to apply the lessons that you learn, all these rewired pathways to the life that you left, that you have to now step back into. That's a pretty, I would say for me, it's a delicate dance, right? It's not as easy as it sounds to just come back and be like, step right back into what it was. You're a different person. A lot of the stuff that you're used to dealing with isn't there anymore. And then new stuff is. So you have access to follow-up sessions with each of the practitioners. I know, Thomas, you and I, we had one when I was just having trouble connecting the dots with like, man, how do I bridge the gap between that higher level of consciousness or that enlightenment that I got while I was there and like the day-to-day grind that I have to step back into without losing that, and then, I was able to schedule another follow-up with Rocio, one of the other practitioners, when I was having these feelings come up after one of our integration meetings with the group on Zoom there that I couldn't make sense of, and it's like, so that support, it continues. Actually, I have an appointment tomorrow with Jackie. We had to reschedule today's, but I have an appointment with Jackie to follow up on some other stuff that I've just been kind of thinking about, but not really understanding how to work through. So integration is as important to you guys for us as it is like for us to continue moving forward on our journeys. And so what I appreciate about this is that not only do we have the peer support and we can tap into any one of our participant bros and sisters, through WhatsApp, because we're all communicating that way, as a retreat group, but we also have the ability, if there's just something that comes up, to access the practitioners from here forward, right? Moving on. And it's not just a one-time thing. So it's in my experience, that's totally different than any other kind of support I've had with the agency, because, we all know EAP with like 6 sessions and you better figure it out, or you better find someone else because that's going to dry up or whatever. And I know there's things are changing along those lines, but with this, it's really a comprehensive support. It's there before, it's there during, and it's there after. And one of the things that really has helped me out is that it's not just for me, it's also for your spouses or your significant others, so that was pretty important to Jessica and myself, to be able to look to the support network as a couple, because it's just as important for her, to understand how this integration is going for me as it is for me, because we're a team. So that access is there for your support system, your loved ones as well.
Oh, that's so beautiful, man. And so I want to get your take on, because I actually wrote a book for the integration process. And I want to get your take on like how helpful that book has been as far as just some of the reading, the kind of the checklists, the exercises. I mean, it's a really short ebook, like 50 pages, but it's kind of like, my intention was it's about a year of work, right?
Yeah. And it's a great, it's a great guide to keep you on track during that year of work. There's a lot to it. Like the book itself is short, but what can become of those things that you do, that's a lifelong journey potentially, right? Or at least, like you said, the reading list was designed to take about a year. And the steps are just ongoing because the integration doesn't stop. But it's a great tool. Like, for example, some of the dreams that I was having when I first came back, very vivid stuff. A lot of neurons are firing in ways that they weren't firing before, and so the dream interpretation guide in there helped me specifically kind of extract what the meaning was out of some of the dreams that I was having. The reading list was cool because I can just capture that. I can throw them all on my Kindle e-reader there, and I can start picking away at those. I'm through my second book now. I'm moving on to my third from the reading list, and it's just stuff that you can pick away at your own pace. It's a good guide because the topics are relevant to kind of what we went through, so you can jump into them when you're ready. But if you're like not ready to if you just want to put your toe in the water, then you can just do it at that pace as well. So and then the questions that you have and the resources that you have in there, it's just another part of that support system. Some people can look at that, and if they're very literal, list driven, list oriented, can tape it to the wall and have a 365-day plan of how to continue to focus on their integration. And then some folks who are a little more abstract, or like myself, I can take a look at it. I used the dream interpretation stuff right away. I'm jumping headfirst into the reading list, and then I'm referencing the other tools in there as needed. So it's in my head, it's awesome, and it's definitely a continuation of that support system there. And since when you leave somewhere, whoever gives you like the book on how to capture it and how to keep it going, right? That's very rare. So to have that guide, it's a pretty incredible, pretty important tool because people can take what they need or take the whole thing and use it and apply it immediately to connect the dots once they get back, into their groove of what it was before they went to retreat.
Oh man, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And so I kind of want to shift gears a little bit to like, where are you now? And like, how is your relationship with your spouse? Like, how has work been? Like, if we kind of circle around to where you were at that intersection every single day to now, it's like, brother, like you have completely transformed. And also like, I want you to like, what's the message for other people too thinking about this? Like knowing like where you're at now, like what you accomplished in literally 4 days. And of course the integration work, but like those 4 days, like what did that give you now?
Yeah, man, it's a lot, but it's a little at the same time. Like where I'm at now, I can only describe it like we talked about the opening and closing ceremonies. That when we walked in, if I had been asked to look in somebody's eyes, and I wouldn't have been able to do it. I mean, you saw it. You guys watched us walk through those doors with our heads hung low, or just like the way we were. I wouldn't have been able to look anybody in the eyes. And by the end of that, that's all I wanted to do was just I wanted people to see me, and I wanted to see them, and not hide anything anymore. And so that's kind of indicative of where I'm at now. There's what I found was that I found myself again, and right, and like we talked about the medicine. The medicine just reminds you, puts you back into a place to discover yourself. It reminds you that you are the medicine, and you have the ability to be authentic and to be yourself. And when you do that's you found it. Like that's the answer, right? I've been on this long journey of forgetting that and losing that for a lot of reasons. But where I am now is I'm the person who is 100% comfortable with someone looking me in the eye and seeing who I am, because I know who I am again. Right? And that where I was the complete opposite of that. I was not able to hold my head high. I was looking, to do everything I could so that somebody would not see what was really happening inside, and they would just see what they thought I was, because that's who I was supposed to be, whether it's because the job said I was supposed to be that, or it's just what they had come to know me as. So that, I think that's the biggest difference, is just that pre and post is like, it's with pre, I lost myself, post, I found myself, right? And that authenticity is what matters. Like being who you truly are, or who you've come to find is what people gravitate towards. Like no matter what you are, it's authenticity is what people gravitate towards. And that's just one of the things is we talked about that word becoming, right? Like we're always looking for what we should become instead of just being what we already are. And that was the biggest lesson of that is, I found who I am again. And coming back, that's probably one of the biggest things that I've been working on is just letting the other stuff go, like letting the other people's projections of what I'm supposed to be, or plans for what I'm supposed to do, or ideas of how I'm supposed to perform, or whatever. Just let that go, and because I'm comfortable doing that now, but also do it in a respectful way that you can communicate. This is who I am. This is what brings me joy. This is why I loved this gig in the first place, and this is how I want to share that love now. It's night and day, man. But it's because I feel like I can look somebody in the eye and let them see who I am, right? And we don't always have that. I would say it's increasingly harder to find in our agency right now, and in Wildland Fire. There's a lot of guards up. There's a lot of people that have been through a lot of skepticism, a lot of animosity, a lot of just anxiety surrounding this field, with the attention that it's all getting right now. And so for me, I'm okay with people seeing who I am. I'm okay with being who I've always been. I'm okay if that doesn't fit somebody else's projection of what it should be. I'm okay if it doesn't fit somebody else's plan. The most important thing for me is that the people that I work for and care about the most, that I'm in service to them, and that they receive 100% of my support because I know they give it to me, and they can gravitate towards it or not. But like, again, that's all I can do is be my authentic self.
Wow, brother, that is so powerful. Thank you so much for sharing that. And any last thoughts for folks listening? Any last thoughts, or what would you say to somebody that's kind of, maybe they've gone to the foundation's website a couple times, they're thinking about it, but they're not really sure? Like, what's your message to them, or any other closing thoughts?
Oh man, I don't know how far it has to go for everybody else. I hope it doesn't have to go as far as it did for me, for someone to finally just feel like do you have to hit rock bottom, right? To take advantage of something that's going to remind you of who you are, and to get back on track. Like, no, I don't think you do. But for people like me who had been told for so long, that this is what you're capable of, this is what you, how people view you, whatever, like you almost believe and you become that like, it took me hitting rock bottom, and it took me saying like, that is not who I can be right now. And I want to do something to fix that. And I want to find myself again. Like, that's what it took for me. Right. But I guess my message is if you're there, then lean into it, man. Find yourself again. Take advantage of the opportunity that was brought to us by someone who was in our shoes. Like, you fought fire for a long time. Melissa fought fire for a long time. You guys are jumpers. You guys are hot shots. You guys have done it. Engines. I mean, it's like, our community needs to not wait until people hit rock bottom. And that's why I think this is such an important tool, because we're trying to get the word out. We're trying to get this out there. And this is not an agency sponsored event, or it would die on the vine, because the agency takes everything good and everything beautiful that the ground tries to build, and they wash it away at the political level to make sure that it's not on anybody's radar. So, my advice is just to lean into it, to take advantage of the support that has been brought to us by our community, that isn't constrained by anything related to the agency, and to not wait till you hit rock bottom. Don't wait till you're at an intersection, wishing that somebody would T-bone you. Don't let it get to the point where, you're numb and your marriage is affected and your loved ones are seeing you suffer, because it doesn't have to be that way. And so, yeah, my message is if you're lurking in the background and you're not sure, hopefully you can hear kind of the way I was able to transform, and hopefully hear soon the other participants' stories, and take that chance on yourself. You're not really taking it for anybody else. You're just taking that chance on yourself. And I would say do so sooner than later, because you really have nothing to lose.
Wow, brother, thank you so much for your story, for your sharing, for just opening your heart out with us today, and for sharing like from the bottom of your heart, brother. It means so much. We've cried, we've laughed. It's just been an amazing time together, and I just want to say thank you. Thank you. It is so important to talk about these experiences, to talk about the healing, to talk about the alternative ways of getting the work done, right? Because this is totally alternative. Like you said, it's completely outside the radar of a lot of things, but it's what needs to happen right now for a lot of people, right? It's like what they need, not necessarily what they want. I loved how you said that. So thank you so much, Roger. Any last thoughts before we wrap up here?
Oh man, no, I just thanks, man, for all the support. I want to thank Melissa and then the entire staff, the Wildland Wellness Foundation, all the participants for sharing their experiences with us that time, and hopefully, for sharing their stories now. It's been incredible, and I'm just happy to have something like this exist. And again, I've been a part of a lot of agency grassroots efforts that have kind of died on the vine, and so to me, I'm just hopeful, like I said, that we have something that isn't tethered to that has someone who's super motivated behind it, a group of people that are really motivated behind it, and just purely want to be in service to others. I mean, that's rare, man, and that's what this is all about. So just thank you again for the opportunity to go through that. And if anybody, gosh, at any time, I put my name out there, I put the forest I work on out there. I come across a lot of folks who are probably going to listen to this. Like, anytime, you can feel free to pick my brain. Like I said, I have no problem talking about it, and no problem letting people know who I am and what it's done for me,
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much. And just, I love you, Roger, so much, and just so much love for you. And thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Thomas. Love you too, man. I appreciate everything. It's an honor. I mean, it's an honor to have gone through this together, and it's an honor to be able to come back and share my story with anybody who wants to hear it.
I want to guide you through natural wellness and holistic medicine, which means using products like essential oils, essential vibes, glutathione mouthwashes, or even reading books. There's so many products out there that can help us, supplements, essential oils. There's so many things about the doTERRA lines of essential oils that I use every day, like lemon to detox my body and to help me hydrate, like On Guard to give me that extra edge in my immune system with the pandemic going, balance to keep me grounded and moving forward in my life. I use the oils every single day, morning, afternoon, night. One of the biggest things they help me with is sleep. I sleep so well because I'll lay on the lavender, I'll lay on the balance, I'll feel so grounded and sleepy, and it's lights out. And I know the Wildland Fire community just struggles so much with sleep, really the lack of it, right? On top of that, there's books. I've written 3 major books for the Wildland Fire community, and I want you to try them out. Give them a read. Get the ebook, get the paperback, whatever suits you. But there's Overcome Anxiety Like a Hero, really teaches you how to get into a flow state. Awakened by Heartfire is really the spiritual aspects of Wildland Fire, and the Heartfire anthology, the guided meditations, the Heartfire method will completely change your life. And of course, 6 Minutes for Excellence. That is a guidebook for wildland firefighter excellence, peak performance, mindset, all those things. So go to mountainmindtricks.com, check out the store, check out essential oils, essential vibes, go to the publishing tab, check out the books. Natural wellness is all about taking one step today that makes us 1% better. 1% better today, 1% better tomorrow, and 1% better the next day and the next day. One little habit adds up to moving an entire mountain with our health. And that's what I want to guide you through. The essential oils, essential vibes, books, supplements, whatever you need, I'm here for you. So just go ahead and go to mountainmindtricks.com and click on the shop and go to essential oils, essential vibes, or go to the publishing tab and check out the books we've got.